Darling in the Franxx is a show that was deemed controversial in the community for the past 2 years. At the time, some thought it was the savior of mecha, and others thought that its story slammed headfirst into a brick wall that was rigged with explosives sourced from a fucking nuke. And now that I'm quarantined and temporarily unemployed, what better time to browse through my watch list? And what better way to start our weeby journey than a Mecha v Dinosaur Kaiju show with horny teens? I don't fucking know. In this review, I'll go over story, characters, music, animation, and its general fun factor to see if Darling in the Franxx was a masterpiece or a mistake. Story. Now this show is something that only my fellow 2000 IQ weebs are able to contend with. It introduces us to many deep, philosophical questions like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to love? Are the moral and ethical complications of attaining immortality something that humanity is ready for? Would you fuck this robot? What about this robot? Would you fuck it? Deep questions requiring even deeper symbolism. And what is this symbolism that is so subtly sprinkled into the show that only we, the superior intelligentsia, are capable of noting? Wouldn't you like to know?
You gotta tell them about the thing.
What? I'm supposed to tell them?
Actually tell them.
I mean, it's about fucking. What do you want me to say?
Man, you gotta actually.
It's about fucking. It's all about fucking.
Yeah, gotta tell them.
God, okay, let's try this at your level then. Darling in the Franxx is a show that drops us into a world where horny teenagers are used to pilot giant mechas called Franxx, whilst in compromising positions with each other to defend the remnants of humanity from other robot kaijus called Cloxosaurs. Here we follow our main protagonist Hero and Squad 13 as they gradually learn about themselves, the world, and their purpose in life, whilst doing their best in a dystopian theocratic future. Also, they're horny. Like really horny. Like half the scenes in this show is some way an allegory for sex kinda horny. But is this the problem that the show supposedly faces? No. Even though it comes on strong in the beginning, the show gradually opens up to many more interesting narratives and story threads that really hook you into the world. Why are children used to pilot these mechas? What are Cloxosaurs? Why did their society make love such a taboo subject? While these story and world building threads are great narrative questions, the real draw into the show is the personal relationships among everyone in Squad 13 and how they deal with these hormonal urges in a world where relationships and sex are heavily suppressed subjects. The drama that is ever growing is almost as interesting as the actual fighting that takes place in the show. Essentially, think of what might happen if you threw a bunch of Catholic high school freshmen on a deserted island with giant robots that can only operate if you're emotionally stable. Specifically, this show focuses on Hero and Zero 2's relationship, as well as the drama that arises from them and others in the group that wish to partake in similar relationships. Relationships that are banned under their society that the adults as well as ape, the near theocratic rulers of the remains of humanity, enforce. This personal drama mixed with the intense situations these teens regularly face, defending their home from giant robo-dinos, create very interesting and thrilling scenes for the cast. Now this is the point where I'm going to have to spoil the show's latter half in order to have a fair analysis of it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this is a timestamp of the next section. For everyone else, let's get into why this story might make some people twist their heads until they look like a character from a Junji Ito manga panel. For me, I was generally thrilled with the direction of the story. Until they decided to throw fucking aliens in there. Here was my live reaction. I got real Gurren Lagann vibes when I saw them do that, but not in the good way. And honestly, I'm still fucking confused about everything. So if the Cloxosaurs weren't the real enemy, why did they attack humanity when they started using magma energy? How do living beings just become fuel? Their whole advanced civilization didn't run on members of their own species, did it? Why would humanity not know of their existence until now? Why wouldn't they tell humanity of the dangers of it or what the fuck Verm is? This needed a whole separate season to figure out, and they just said, fuck it, throw it all in. Who needs logic when you have giant fucking robot girls fighting in fucking space against fucking giant robot aliens? And I want those robots fuckable, damn it. It just felt rushed and needed to breathe a little bit. That being said, I like the ending with the character resolutions. I thought that the metaphor of Hero and Zero Two having a love that cannot be broken to be cute. So I don't think it's a big of a train wreck, but these things do dock from the score. If it didn't throw a wrench in its own story writing by introducing Verm in the last 5 episodes, then we could have had a good contender for top 5 best mecha animes. Like, everything up to that point was gripping and took me for an emotional roller coaster. Hell, even the chaos, it still did, just with more what the fucks thrown in and would I fuck Zero Two as a battleship? No. How would I? Characters? The story mainly revolves around Squad 13, which introduces us to many wonderful and engaging characters. Hero has internal struggles of finding a purpose since he knows that he's not a suitable candidate to become a parasite or pilot of a Franxx. But that gradually changes when he meets Zero Two, a pink-haired waifu who has a bit of a habit killing each of her co-pilots after about 3 rides piloting one of the flagship Franxx, Sterilizia. She embodies an agent of chaos for everyone involved, constantly stirring the pot and obsessing over her
darling.
And that is a bit of a big description of their characters, as later on in the show, Hero and Zero Two become borderline obsessive about each other, though it does make sense in the context. Imagine that emo couple at school that constantly recite poetry about how they would kill themselves if they didn't have the other, except on a deeper, philosophical, and very literal sense as they require each other to have a purpose in their lives and actions. Now let's not forget about the rest of Squad 13, like Ichiko, the squad leader and member of the love triangle between her, Zero Two, and Hero. But remember Goro, the daddy of the group, loves Ichiko, who just can't seem to choose between the obvious choice and the choice that clearly rejected you on multiple instances. But also remember that Ichigo is secretly admired by the obvious lesbian Ikuno, whose partner Mitsuru holds a grudge against Hiro for not remembering a promise they made as kids, but this same hard ass is gradually warmed up by Kokoro, who drops her partner Futoshi the fat ass. And outside of this complicated love snafu is Zorome and Miku, who are just on their own island being all sooner with each other. This is the love setting that builds the drama for basically each episode. Outside of this main cast, we have other important figures like Papa, the near god of humanity and leader of Ape, Nana and Hachi, the commanders of Squad 13, and the Nines, a group of demi-human pilots, all of which have their own character arcs throughout the story, which is a commendable thing about the show, as for at least the first half of episodes, the story is based around characters or a group of characters struggling with personal problems that gradually affect the whole group in some way, whether it be morale or on the battlefield. As we get to know each character's ambitions and desires, the world around them seems to open up, letting us see what problems that world has and the strange and often frightening things that take place regularly within the plantations, or the moving biodomes that humanity resides in. With a few exceptions, the main cast of characters in this show are without a doubt the main draw to it. Until a certain part of the story, you'll be engrossed in the thoughts and actions each character faces when confronted with not only external conflicts but the internal, mostly puberty-driven ones. This, combined with an interesting dystopian narrative, really drag you along an emotional roller coaster that you will have no way of exiting until the story flings you out into orbit. Music. Now we get to one of the grand pillars that help carry this show to the finish line. The music in this show is maybe the best in its effectiveness of portraying the emotions felt in each scene that's used in. Even if what you are watching on the screen is questionable in dialogue or story, the music will still be jamming to the point where you just won't care sometimes and feel the scene out through the influence of sound instead of video. Kiss of Death is the OP for this show and is a banger. I think encapsulates the feelings that this show achieves. It's a large electronic rock anthem that constantly shuffles between the slow somberness of the piano and drums that steadily bursts into a large electronic orchestra, spewing a sad but intensely beautiful sound. That is the type of sound production whose themes spread to many of the ambient tracks in this show. These are tracks that will get you pumped and wanting to kill some goddamn Cloxosaurus like Counterattack, and others that are soft and mysterious like Odds and Ends. And it was only when re-listening to the soundtrack that I realized how many of these tracks are in those epic anime music compilations. I really encourage anyone who's on the fence of watching this show to just listen to the soundtrack and then come to a conclusion, because this music is honestly some of the best I've heard from a show, and that's including all the ambient tracks. There's not really anything more that I can say to praise the music in Darling in the Franxx. Every song fits so well and gives just as much emotion as the actual scene it's underlying. There were no bad tracks, nothing more to it. Animation. Studio Trigger is the other half of the stand that raises this show tremendously. The animation Darling in the Franxx is a visual orgasm, filled with the fluid fight scenes and distinctive character designs. Trigger is just one of those iconic animation studios where you can instantly see the style and know you're going to see a stunning visual display. Similar to the music, the animation really helps accentuate all the emotion that's trying to be directed into your eyeballs. This is especially true because of the sheer production value that went into the presentation of some scenes. They were not afraid to do things like play around with aspect ratios to highlight scenes, which makes the experience watching the show more like a movie than a 24-episode series. The backgrounds of specifically the adult cities and the laboratories to the squad's house and forest really do help convey the sense of both futuristic advancement and deep emptiness that is prevalent throughout the series. You see a shining city, yet not many people busy walking around. You see a green forest, but the only life is that of a few birds. The hallways of these facilities are huge and wide, but wide and only possessing whoever was focused on in that scene. Not to mention all the perverted metaphors that are not so subtly illustrated here and there. Everything has effort done in it, even when things go off the rails. You want robots fighting giant monsters? Oh boy, you're gonna get it. There is no skipping. You're going to watch this robot bisect a giant worm monster, or this giant battleship smashing straight into a building. It delivers on all fronts, with only little to no CG whatsoever. The only thing that can be a bit underperforming would sometimes be the character designs when they are a bit away. Sometimes I'll be enthralled with a scene only to realize that a guy not 10 feet away has no face, though I'm willing to forgive such a thing as they are far and few between. Fun factor. Have I said this show is horny yet? Because it is, but don't let that be a turn-off for you, because there is so much more driving the show than metaphors. As I said previously, Darling in the Franxx is a character drama based around teenagers just learning about relationships while living in a society that actively discourages them. This combined with the ever-expansive world building and history behind not only the setting but the past of each character, and you have yourself a gripping show. But that isn't to say that the drama is the only draw, as action in the show is just as heart-pumping and a sight to see. Even when the story decides to escalate the stakes, sometimes it's the personal stakes with each character that makes the scenes all the more tense and investing. And when things do go hog wild and batshit crazy, I still was enthralled with the pure disaster presented to me. The show is perhaps one of the best mecha anime all the way up until about episode 20. Then while storytelling and reason was thrown out the window, you'll still get a sight to behold with the crazy fantastic final battle sequence and a heartwarming journey end for most of the characters. Really, as much as I want to feel like I was slighted for the direction the show took, I still can't say that I wasn't thrilled the whole way through. This show has its own personal journey that one will come out of knowing more about themselves than they already did before. Is Darling in the Franxx life-changing? No, but it definitely tests exactly what you look for in a show. The build up to so many personal stories in the show was the cookie, and the action was the chocolate topping. Even if the cookie is stale, the chocolate will still allow you to swallow. Conclusions. Darling in the Franxx had all the makings to become a beautiful homage to the mecha genre and a real force to be reckoned with. The animation is beautiful, as well as the music and the story up until episode 20. The characters were personable and exuded the same confusing hormonal aura that takes one back to being in high school. Which leads to perhaps the biggest question: can an ending absolutely destroy a show? This is the question, as it's where all the controversy resides in for this show. I think that this show, up to that point and at the very end, were great, and even when the show went wacky, I was along for the ride. It could have been worse, so I'll be perhaps the most generous with the ranking of this show. I rank Darling in the Franxx a 9 out of 10. It's a show that I think most people should watch for themselves in order to make a fair judgment, and besides the bump in the road, the show is technically great. For other recommendations, I have to suggest Gurren Lagann as the show that is both iconic in the mecha genre as well as landing the ending twist much better than Darling in the Franxx. And if we are on the subject of being cultured, you might as well take a peek at Evangelion Neon Genesis for proper weeb education about mecha and its influence in many shows of today. Thanks for watching. At the time of recording, I only have 10 subscribers, so it would be very appreciative if you subscribe to help me grow the channel and like the video if you enjoyed. If you did see Darling the Franxx, write a comment down below of your thoughts. I don't have a set schedule of when I'll be releasing videos, but I'm aiming for about once a week. That being said, I'm Zio, and I'll see you in the next review.